Well, hello, Robert Brown. This is Kerry Duke with the Telecom Expert. We are going to have a great conversation today, right?
We are, yes. Thanks again for having me back.
You bet. And we had a previous conversation about HIPAA compliant video conferencing and your YipTel telehealth product. And I thought what would be really good today would be to follow up with that conversation with some questions that businesses should ask before they contemplate going with any type of HIPAA phone, fax, or video conferencing solution provider. This concept of being HIPAA compliant is so convoluted that and if correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that these new HIPAA regulations make it important to not only have the person who's providing the medical service be concerned with being HIPAA compliant, but the service providers to the medical clinic or the doctor's office also need to be concerned with being HIPAA compliant.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And I think a lot of small doctors' offices and clinics, and even some of the hospitals, they just haven't really thought about it from that perspective. That in order for me to maintain my HIPAA compliance, I've got to have a provider that's delivering me a HIPAA compliant service. It's a little bit different than traditional dial tone and internet that's been provided. Now, with everything transitioning to voice over IP, that means that you have to be concerned about, well, is your provider HIPAA compliant? Because if now my calls are simply traversing the internet, and that has patient data and information and credit cards and all those types of things in that information as I'm transferring that, if I'm sending that across the internet in an unencrypted, non-HIPAA compliant format, which honestly most voice over IP providers today transmit in that format, those are concerns that they probably just didn't realize. So we're trying to get the word out there and help them to understand that, yeah, you really need to pay attention to that provider and what services they're delivering to you and how they're delivering those services. So it's one of the great
Yeah.
benefits of our service, certainly.
And there are also, it's not just about being compliant though, is that it's surrounded by a bunch of fees. I mean, if you don't do this, you will be fined, and the penalties are pretty severe, aren't they?
They are severe, and as a provider, there's different agreements that we sign and things like that to assure those organizations that you work with that that is the case, and that you are in a HIPAA compliant environment, and that you're certifying that that's the case. And so, there's lots of different parts and pieces, and I think we'll probably discuss some of those today.
Exactly. So, so on the heels of that conversation last week is like, well, there's a whole lot more to this than meets the eye, and I really thought it would be important to dig into a little bit more of those details because I think they're important in differentiating your business from your competitors and what else is available on the marketplace.
Absolutely.
All right,
Yeah.
so let's go with the first one. I think this is the probably the biggest question that businesses should be asking you. These medical clinics, these doctors, are you a HIPAA compliant business associate? And if you are, what does that mean?
Yeah, so there's several things, as I mentioned, that go into becoming HIPAA compliant. So one aspect of that is the testing and all of the back end that we've done to assure that none of that data is accessible out there on the internet or by any other way. A couple of things that we've done is certainly we went to a third-party group that comes in and provides testing, penetration testing. They come in with all kinds of little devices into our network and do all kinds of crazy little tests, that essentially go in and map out and say, hey, we're going to look at every way that somebody could get access into YipTel's information where we could potentially have anything that would be, patient data or any of those types of things. So we partner with a third-party company that comes in and provides all of that testing and certification for us. In addition to that, though, one of the things that's pretty unique about YipTel's service is that we actually don't store any data. So one thing that's very important to us is to make sure that we encrypt the phone calls, the video calls, the faxes, all the different types of products and solutions that we deliver in a HIPAA compliant environment. We make sure that none of those are stored long term on our servers. So we pass that phone call, but we don't store anything on that phone call. And so for us, in our environment, what we make sure is that everything is an encrypted environment from end to end across our network. So that phone that you put out on your site in that clinic or hospital or whatever it may be, that physical phone is going to encrypt that phone call and that conversation all the way from you across your network in and across our network. So from end to end, we're going to make sure that we provide full encryption from end to end across that. That's where, like I mentioned, most of the other voice over IP providers that are out there don't provide a encrypted environment. So if you're going across an open internet connection and sending that phone call, that's not encrypted. It's open. People can sniff that traffic, and there's lots of different ways that people can get access to that. And so we make sure that that is encrypted from end to end and certify that. And so that's part of the process that we go through, is on each piece of equipment and solution that we deliver to the medical industry, that we certify that everything is encrypted from end to end so that we're not passing just open traffic across the internet.
Okay, you covered a lot of information in that answer.
Sorry about that.
But I want to be more specific. You're a HIPAA compliant business associate, and isn't there some type of agreement that you have to sign to be one of those, to tell everybody the government signed off on your ability to be compliant, to offer compliant services?
Yeah, so what we do as a company and as a provider, and this is also very unique, is that we have the ability we sign a document with the customer, because they're going to need that. They need to be able to, in order for them to show that they're HIPAA compliant, they need documents from their vendors that assure that they are HIPAA compliant and providing HIPAA compliant services to them. And so we sign that business associate agreement, that BAA agreement. We sign that and essentially contract with that client that we are a HIPAA compliant environment and that we maintain those standards. And so yeah, we actually put it in writing. We're not just talk. We put it in writing, and we have that ability to sign that agreement with them, assuring them that our services and the products that we deliver to them are HIPAA compliant, and that access to any medical or patient data and those types of things are fully secure.
Okay, so what has I know you've answered part of this, but I want to be very clear about this. What has YipTel done to ensure compliance, and has your HIPAA compliance been assessed by independent experts?
Yeah, so just to be clear one more time, is that yes, we have a third party. It's not us. It was interesting to me as we got into this marketplace and focused on the medical industry, that there is a huge range of HIPAA compliant providers. So at the very base level, you essentially provide your own little assessment, say, oh yeah, I think I do all these things, sign it off and say, I'm HIPAA compliant. That's not the method as a carrier that obviously we took, and not that route. So we went through, hired an expensive third-party team that comes in and assesses several times a year, does all the penetration testing, does all of that, and then certifies us as a third party that our applications and the things that we are providing are HIPAA compliant. So, we have to maintain that in order for us to be able to certify and know from our perspective, so that we can sign those agreements and contract with the customer. It's a serious thing that obviously needs to be. You really have to know what you're doing, and you have to make sure that we're delivering those right services to the client. And again, it's really, I've found, kind of an education process, helping them to understand about, hey, look, if some of these other voice over IP providers you may be looking at, They they don't. They number one, they store it. It's not encrypted. They don't encrypt their calls. It's just it's helping them to really understand the importance of making sure that you are with a HIPAA compliant provider that can sign that agreement with you, that gives you that essentially that comfort level, knowing that, hey, these guys know what they're doing and they're going to take care of me. And that's our job. Our job is to know and understand all of those things and deliver that service to the client so that they don't have to worry about it.
Very good. What type of specific HIPAA compliant services do you deliver?
So they kind of fall into three categories. The first would be voice over IP phone systems. So we're going to take and we're going to put a physical voice over IP phone on their desks, or we're going to put software on their computers that they can use soft phones, or we're going to enable their mobile devices. So our business phone system technologies, those are all HIPAA compliant because whether it's the physical phone, whether it's the software, whether you're using a mobile device, all of those parts and pieces of our product are all fully encrypted as they go across your network and across the internet. They're fully encrypted across our network. So that's one product that we deliver, is a integrated phone system with all of its different things. It does video, it does voicemail, your auto attendant, your call center applications, all of those types of things that you need to run your practice. Those are all part of the solution. Another big piece, though, is certainly, you would think that the fax may be dying, but I promise, unfortunately, it's not. And there's still a lot of need, especially when these people are working with governmental agencies and that type of thing. There's a lot of need for faxing still today. And so we provide two forms of faxing. One is a true electronic fax that sends and receives completely in an electronic method. So you're going to receive it as a PDF. You're going to attach it. We're going to secure those documents and send those. The other way is a physical fax machine. But rather than paying for an analog phone line to the phone company for your 35, 40, 50 bucks a month, we can come in and reduce that cost, cut it almost in half, and then deliver a device that you plug in your fax machine to. It sends and receives those faxes, but it does it, of course, in a fully encrypted and HIPAA-compliant method as it does it. So a lot of people have transitioned their faxing technologies over to our HIPAA-compliant fax service. The third, and our most recent, and this is a very exciting solution, is our telemedicine product, where we provide video conferencing out to these patients and doctors, so that essentially now they can pull up either on a physical phone, or the doctor can sit in front of his computer and now meet with those clients in a personal interaction face-to-face, no matter where they may be. So on their laptop or their iPad or something like that, or their computer, whatever that may be, now we have enabled that telemedical solution for collaboration with the doctors and all of that, but all of that is wrapped up in that HIPAA-compliant environment as well, fully secure, delivering those end-to-end services. So we really take just about any way that they can communicate with their clients, from the phones to video and video conferencing, faxing technologies. We take all of those and wrap them into our telemedical product and deliver that to these practices and clinics and hospitals.
Okay, so there's a lot of services that you can provide. And one of the questions that I think should be asked by these medical facilities, doctors and such, is that, how do you recommend these particular configurations? I know you have a very consultative sales process, so how do you put those two things together to help design the type of system a practice might want to utilize?
Yeah, we really are experts at this. We've been doing, business communication technologies for 40 plus years. And we have an amazing team of, like you said, consultants that really sit down. We just sit down with the client, we look at their practice, we evaluate their bills, all of this is meant to generate revenues and drive ROIs and patient interaction. And so what we help them to do is realize the things that we can assist them with that many times we find they don't even realize those technologies are out there, and that they're easily accessible, that they're very cost effective, that they quickly pay for themselves in the way that we can interact with the clients and the patients. So we really sit down and go through and help them to assess what they're doing, and then design and provide new solutions that, as I mentioned, in many cases they haven't even thought of or realized were available and accessible to them. So we help them through that entire process. Then we deploy and implement those technologies. We train their staff. We help them. We become their technology partner that they can leverage 24/7. We have access to live answering where you're going to get assistance and help. So we really take them from understanding their needs and applications, designing those solutions, implementing those, and then also just long-term becoming their technology partner as our technologies. We've got new applications and technologies that are coming out every few weeks, and that can be overwhelming to clients. And that's our job, is to make sure that we help them transition smoothly and easily into these new technologies that can drive their practices.
Very good. Okay, last question, and you touched on this at the very beginning of our conversation, and this has to do with the concept of encryption and what they call data in motion and data at rest. Now, those are fancy technological terms that are specific to your industry. Why don't we break those down into layman's terms so dummies like me can understand?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me help you with those, and I can explain kind of what data in motion and data at rest, and what that means is that, so data at rest essentially means that we're going to take data and we're going to store that somewhere, and that would, if we stored that information, that would need to be encrypted, because as we all know, the world of hackers and getting access into customer data and all those types of things, strangely, is very enjoyable to some people on this planet. And so we need to make sure that any data or information that's stored is definitely secure. As I mentioned, YipTel actually doesn't store any of that, so we don't have any data at rest applications. We designed our product actually not to, so that we don't have any access, and there is no access for anybody to come in and then grab patient data or medical information. We designed our solution not to have any of that. So then the data in motion means that as we're on those phone calls, we're on that video call, we're on that physical phone call, we're sending those faxes, all those technologies, as we're sending and streaming that we make sure that that is encrypted. And that's what YipTel does, and that's what we certify in our agreements and everything that we make with the client, is that we are certifying end-to-end that that's going to be an encrypted call across our network. So that's what's very key about our applications. We're not going to get into a scenario where somebody hacks in and then gets access to all your patient data and medical records, because we don't store any of that. And so that's one of the designs that we really wanted to go after, is we wanted to make sure that there was never an environment where any of our clients could be compromised. And so that's the reason why we've designed it that way, and that also is pretty unique about the YipTel platform and the product that we are delivering to our clients.
Excellent, Robert. This is great information. Now, where can somebody find YipTel, Robert Brown, and the experts and consultants that you have on staff?
Absolutely. So YipTel, you can certainly give us a phone call on our 800 number at 800-752-6110, or you can also reach us online at yiptel.com, which is YIPTEL.com. Stands for Your IP Telephone. YipTel.com.
Very good, Robert Brown. Appreciate you being here and having this conversation about being HIPAA compliant in your business. And we will see you next time.
Hey, thanks again. See you later, guys.